Hello everyone, thank you to be here. I'm very happy to be here also this year, and with so many people. We are really stuffed this year. Okay, so just a moment to introduce myself. I'm Matteo Ronchi. I live here in Verona, and I'm a software engineer at Workwave. At Workwave, we work on software that do fleet management and GPS tracking solutions. I'm also a proud member of Fever, that is the local meetup community for front-end development. And I'm also passionate of everything is automation and scripting, so the less interesting for most of us part of front-end development. I want to give you a little of context of what I'm talking about, and I have to go back a few years that are not that many for the real life, but a long time ago for front-end development. So around 2010, front-end development started to change. We started to having HTML5. It wasn't something real. We started having modern framework. Knockout.js, Angular 1, Backbone was already around, and all that new stuff required a new way to bundle our code. Actually, before bundling, it wasn't a thing. We doesn't need to put everything together. We already had a single file or a couple of files. With those new framework, we started having hundreds of files, dozens of files, and that changed how we saw and worked on our project. In 2013, Alex Sexton, it's been the first to talk about front-end ops. So referring to those individuals in front-end development doing operations like DevOps, but oriented toward front-end project and specific needs of bundling, minifying, linting, and etc., etc. In a team, every kind of team, normally every individual fulfill a role. In a football team, in a sport team, in whatever kind of team you can think of. And modern front-end development ain't any different. Any team is a team. There is a leader, there are followers, there are owner, and people that follow lead. But we still don't specialize that much, or at least we don't care as a business, as an ecosystem, as companies, at least in my opinion, enough about this new role. The role of front-end operation and project maintenance. So you have been hired to make awesome animation or awesome visual interaction, but you are asked to maintain Webpack configuration, write Gulp task, understand node processes, and this is fine. This is part of our culture, and this is something that is worth to be learned, but is not what you have been hired for. It's not your job, but you have to, because nobody do that for you. You don't have an ops team for front end, setting your project, scaffolding your scripts, and preparing the build. You have to do it by yourself, and this is fine. This work, but this, I don't know, for most of us, is not what you want for your daily job, for your daily life. You don't want to spend hours getting crazy on why Webpack is not working with that command. And you can do your job, but you can't really explain to your boss that you haven't been able to complete the animation because it was impossible to compile. And maybe due to a bug of a third-party tool that you are using to enable Webpack. And this is our reality. I don't know how many of you, but looking at the face, a lot of you live that situation very often. And this is something that I think we should address as community and as companies, but it must start from us as developer, because until we didn't complain, we don't expose something is missing, our companies probably will not be aware of that. So it doesn't matter what people say, but frontend is hard. And no matter what, who says differently, never worked in a real life project. No matter how big is the project, can be a 2-page project or hundreds of page single page application product. Anyway, it's hard. We have to keep track of so many different things, so many different projects that you get crazy. And nobody, or maybe not everybody, is meant to do that job or want to do that job. And this is something happened recently in the last couple of years. In 2015, finally, JavaScript evolved. We got ES 2015, new specification, new feature, and this is cool, this is awesome. But in 2015, people realized that browser wasn't ready. And so how could we use those new fancy features in available browser? Transpiling. So a lot of tools and projects started to having people being able to use the new feature in today browsers that was not ready. And that was good, but that's brought to what also Jose spoken about this morning, the JavaScript fatigue. In 2016, people inverted the hype of, hey, we have ES 2015 in A. We can't just care about ES 2015. We have to do our job. And how can we do that? How can we manage to do that? And late 2016 and earlier this year, I'm seeing a new comprehension of the situation. I see projects sprouting around, not adding chaos to the already complex situation, but bringing cohesion and simplifying, or trying to simplifying our experience as developer. It's a long road, but I think we are set on the right track. So as company, as team, I speak as company or team because when you are a single developer, often you are forced to do everything by yourself. But for people working in a team, we face as team leader and team member a big problem, that is the problem of always evolving standard. So when you work on other technologies, on other field of application, you have a finite set of boundaries to work on. Web development doesn't have that. Browser changes and we can do nothing about that. And if it's Chrome or Firefox stop supporting something, we have to live with that. We have to adapt. And so having always evolving standard bring to always evolving stack of tools. So again, as Jose shown in Electron boilerplate, we have a plethora of tools that can be used all to do the same job or very similar job. And my concern, one of the things I care most of, is not what tool is best to use or what tool you want to use. I don't care. Every one of those tools is great. What matters is why using those tools and how make newcomer to JavaScript ecosystem decide which one use and which one not, and in which situation. And this is a kind of tricky situation For example, in 2012, I was using Grunt, and I was very happy about it. Then Gulp happened, and we started migrating everything from Grunt to Gulp. And after 1 year, when everything was migrated, Browserify and Webpack happened. And people started saying, okay, you can't use Gulp. And then you can do the same for every tool listed here. There was TypeScript, then FlowType, there was Traceur, then Babel, you name it, and everyone will follow the same pattern. And all are valid tools. Everyone use different approach, but those approaches are not right or wrong. Simply suited for different team, different mindset, different problems. But if you Google Grunt, for example, you find a tutorial 5 years old, 3 years old, maybe older, and you are not sure if you are looking at something really actual that you can use, that you can leverage in your daily work, or if you are looking at something stale, something legacy, that the web keep there, but if you start doing that, you will have to redo it again. And this is something that I don't think we can change very quickly. It's something more of a culture we have to create and construct as community to bring comprehension, understanding of our need on a tooling side. So this applies also to framework like Angular, React, but I'm more concerned and focused on tooling right now. And we have too many options and too many unstable options because the new kits starting working today see Webpack sort of as legacy already, because rollup is the new kids on the block, and then I don't know, whatever, we have pre-pack IO coming out a couple of weeks ago, and every week we have something new. But the problem with that is, how can we as team leader, architect, or people in charge to choose the tooling, be sure to choose something that will not die in few months, that will be maintained in the future? And this is a very tricky and difficult question, and there isn't an easy answer. But we can do a lot of small things to adapt and react to our ecosystem and our world of product and application. So we live in the browser, most of us. I don't know if some one of you do native or other application of JavaScript, but we can do a lot. And the more important thing that I try always everywhere I work is growing internal expertise and understanding. So it's good that someone, say me in a team, is the one responsible to choose which tool, with build pipeline, with workflows, and why. But if I'm sick, if I switch job, if I decide I want to be something else, who will be able to understand and maintain what I have done? Often nobody. And what happens often in company is that when someone in a key role move, you rewrite or change everything. And this is good for the developer coming in, but this is not good for the company or the product, because often you reinvent the wheel again and again and again. So growing internal expertise means having all the team, or most of it, aware of what you are doing, why you are doing it, and how to do it. It's not important that everyone has to do it always, but in case of need, everyone should at least understand what happened and why. Also because knowledge of what we do help us making better choice and creating, hopefully, better code, more maintainable project, more scalable project. And so maybe you gain a couple of years of life for your product before a rewrite or a next version. One thing that a lot of people do, but not that much on my, for what I can see on my daily life, is following a curated list of individuals. So most of you probably have a Twitter stream or Facebook stream, but is often fulfilled of everyone jump in that you see, oh, these guys seem interesting, follow. But in the end, you get a lot of noise, a lot of not needed information for our work purposes, not personal one. So having a curated list of people to follow and not blindly follow, but just follow to get faster access to cutting-edge technologies, new stuff, new things, new approaches, and then start digging into the technologies by yourself. Because this is one of the biggest lack I see in a lot of teams. The ability to really understand the tool we are using. I'm speaking of automation tool. Okay, you are using Gulp, but what Gulp is really doing? I don't mean the real internals, but on a higher level. Okay, can you work without it? Can you create a plugin for it? Can you adapt it to your need when something already made is not available? And this is something that most of people never think about it until they hit that wall on work. And then often you cry because you spend weeks understanding how the heck you can solve that particular solution. And very important, never panic when you break stuff. Okay, please don't break build production. But on small project, side project, on your own feature branch, experiment. Try, dirty your hand, and become aware of what you are doing. Because it's always easy blame someone else for what is wrong, simply because you really don't understand the complexity or what's happening. Often when you start understanding, you can always blame someone else, but it gets a little more difficult, or you feel a little guiltier doing it, hopefully. So, as other people more influential than me already said, break things and do it often, because it's one of the best way to learn, trial and error, and understanding what was the error, not going forward blindly. Then, this is another topic very near to my heart, and very few team does. Allocate a fixed time or a minimum fixed time every week to do front-end ops, project maintenance, that sometimes could mean studying new stuff, sometimes means updating your dependencies. I don't know, but if you stop updating your npm dependencies today, and in a fresh machine in 6 months, you install your project, it's very, very probable that you will not compile. Because our ecosystem of tool is live, is always changing as the browser has, and we have to keep pace with it. Not not with haste or pressure, but we have to. So if not every week, every 15 days, spend a couple of hours running yarn upgrade interactive or npm update or whatever tool you want, and upgrade everything that is not that will not bring breaking changes to your code, because probably they have fixed bug, they've introduced a small improvement, and make your project really maintainable in the long run. And this is very important from the one of you making products, because if you make a website, maybe in 6 months you have to create a new one, and the old one will be discarded or never changed. But if you work on a product, the product will be on the market for at least 3-5 years, and so your code and your maintenance. Another important thing is really avoid boilerplates, please. I don't blame people making boilerplates, they are great, but to learn stuff. The average boilerplate, to be of interest to many people, bring so many stuff and things that you will never need, that simply make impossible maintain by yourself or improve the boilerplate. So it's not taking a boilerplate and using it or improving it, but is taking a boilerplate and keeping track of what the original maintainer changed and how. And this is a work inside a work inside a work. It's too many things to keep track and to do. So study your boilerplates, learn from them, help them also improving, but on real product, on your own company, try to do by yourself or using smaller tool. So Create React App and GCLI are great tool. And to have fast prototyping or fast start are awesome. But often every project needs something different on so many aspects that in the end you get crazy to make your needs fit in those generic tools. And the only way to change that is making your own tool, not reinventing the wheel, but taking the basic building blocks other people already made and putting it together as you need. For example, if you don't unit test, I hope you do unit test, but if you don't need a boilerplate with Jest, Karma, and code coverage, and Istanbul, and whatever you can think of. It's just a megabyte of file you download in your own machine, and probably in the future could break your build. So because you are not aware of that. So speaking of test, do you test your code? If the response is yes, good. But you test your automation. So you test what you feed to other people, but you test what you feed to yourself. You are okay double checking what you gave to the customer, but you don't test what you give to your coworker. Doesn't feel good to me. I don't know. I never understood that. And then you have to organize and decouple, where possible, your automation. Really, if you start using npm script, also with gulp or whatever, but as entry point, or better, plain node modules, just invoked by npm script, you get a lot of decoupling, and you will discover that a lot of stuff can be reused and recycled between projects. And the last thing we are starting to do at work, and I'm really fond of what's happening, is separating totally automation. So making a project itself of script automation, obviously the generic one, not the very specific one, and reusing them. And being that I was interested in that, for this talk I made a proof of concept of a possible tool. Right now it is really a proof of concept, but it's working, of how we could move dependencies of automation outside the main code base. And so I made Runit. Runit is, you can see it, those are hyperlinks, so on the slide will be reachable. Runit is on GitHub, so you can dig and try by yourself. I don't intend to go through the boring stuff of which library I'm using, what I'm doing. This is technical implementation that anyone interested could be able to follow. But the motivation. So my idea is we have multiple projects in our company, and some projects consume other projects. But anyway, any of those projects has its own script folder with copy and pasted the same module. Again. And every time I tweak something in project A, I need to go manually to project B and tweak it also there. Otherwise, I will start having different scripts with different behavior, and me and my coworker will get crazy. And so, given that I really don't love that, I tried to abstract that. And so I made this little tool that, as said, is a proof of concept, but what allow us to do? It allows us to, define an RC file where apart of some basic configuration, the relevant part is the repositories one. So we can define one or more repositories, name them, and instruct the tool where they are. Right now it works only with online repository, but can easily be changed to work on local also. And what the tool does is when I run install from it, it will be to git fetch those projects, install their dependencies on my project because they are running in my project, not in their own, and expose all the module I put them available through npm command. So basically, I hope the connection is decent. So when I run install, if the connection is working, I have a CLI running, and speaking of thinking of your user, this is not awesome, but having a spinner, a little of communication to your user, improve the understanding of what's happening and the experience of our user. Is a developer experience, but it matters anyway. And once I have done that, I can run something like that. This script is a template to scaffold sort of human, very simplified, React component. So I can choose if they are stateless or not, and the name. And what I get is, come on, okay, is that the source folder that it wasn't available before is being created with the index file, a markdown file made to show an example use of the component. It is a placeholder, obviously, and the real component. So this is empty, this is nothing fancy, but it was meant to be a proof of concept. It can be easily extended. For example, I have another command that is release. Those commands are also on GitHub if you want to dig into them. Release is a little complexer and is a simplified version of what we do at work. And basically, update the changelog, commit it, create a new version, create a tag, and publish on npm. Right now, I commented out the npm publishing part, but I can choose between minor, major, and patch. And when I run it, right now, you see that I have a new Git entry made now that is the changelog reporting all my commit. This is made with an npm module called changelog, and it does exactly what the name says. But I say this, that was mostly to give you a glimpse, because this was intended to be an inspirational talk. But I also want to give you something to work with or to dig into. Also keep notice that the run it is being written using cutting edge technologies, because side project allow us to do that. And so use flow type and doesn't transpile apart from ES module, because using node higher than 7.8, we also have async await, so everything is run without transpiling, and that also helps debugging while doing stuff. So, sum it up. At the bare minimum, if you don't want to go all down that road, try to isolate your repetitive or recurrent processes and abstract them. really, you'll be surprised of how much you simply copy and paste, creating version and version. Then remember, your automation is never finished. If you think it's finished, you are done, meaning that it will break everything bad very soon. Not that bad, but you still have to learn new stuff and have the knowledge to understand when and why bring that stuff into your project. It's up to us. And this is also important. You have to care about your project. It seems stupid. I agree with Jose that this morning said that people get feeling for tooling. It's strange, it's weird, and I agree with him. But you have to care, not in a sentimental way, but in a practical way to your project. A tool, also a physical one, needs maintenance. You have to oil them, to grease them, to clean them. This is the same. It's a tool, but you have to take care of it. And last but not least, remember of your fellow developer. We use tools other of us make, but often those tools are not documented, bad written, not all of them, and very difficult to grasp what you want to do with them. So spend few time, a 2-line comment. It doesn't need that much. You don't need JSdoc. It's enough a plain comment saying this method is meant to do that. And as last thing, dog food your work. So if you create this fancy project, say this proof of concept, run it, and you say, oh, it's awesome, you have to use it, but you don't use it yourself. How can you understand its flaws, what can be improved, what is really powerful and what not? You cannot. It's just you can't. So the very important thing is made and work on things that work for you. If it will work for you, it's very probable that it will work also for other people. Because as community, as developer, we share a lot of needs and requirements. That's it. I hope it's been interesting and thank you to listen to me.